You are fired.
Morgana Crestfield didn't just fire assistants. She erased them. One day you had a security badge and a view of the city from the 40th floor. By lunchtime your login stopped working because her latte arrived in the wrong cup. The Crestfield Foundation HR system quietly recorded it all. 8 terminations in 11 months, each one tagged with words like insubordination and attitude, never admitting the real crime was wearing heels she thought were prettier than hers. In the marble corridors of Crestfield Tower, people learned survival rules the way soldiers learn hand signals. Never sit in her chair, never correct her numbers, and above all, never look calmer than the wicked billionaire's wife when she walks into the room. If you love ruthless billionaire drama and smart revenge like this, pause for a second, but don't leave. Hit like so this story reaches more people who are tired of bullies winning. Tap subscribe if you enjoy dark, high-stakes stories where power finally meets its match. Because what happens to Morgana next will make every fired assistant feel avenged. Drop a comment and tell where in the world you're watching from. And if you've ever worked for a boss who treated the office like their personal kingdom. Share this video with that friend who still vents about their toxic job. Let them see how this kind of story can end on paper. Morgana's title was simple, Philanthropy Chair. But everyone on the 40th floor knew her real job was reminding the world that Dorian Crestfield's billions belonged to her weekends, her whims, her temper. She dressed like the city skyline had been poured into a white suit. Every line sharp, every accessory an implied threat. When she leaned over a desk and raised her voice, executives with degrees from 3 continents suddenly forgot how to breathe. The view outside the glass stretched for miles, all glittering towers and rivers of traffic. But inside the Crestfield offices the air felt thin, like oxygen itself had to ask Morgana for permission before entering. That was the atmosphere the morning assistant number 9 arrived, except she didn't look like an assistant at all. Serafina Ravenska stepped out of the private elevator in a black suit cut with surgical precision. Braids pulled back, expression so composed it felt like its own kind of weapon. She walked past the reception desk without glancing at the trembling interns, past the framed photos of charity galas Morgana treated like royal portraits, and stopped only when she reached Dorian's office door. By the time it opened, everyone on that floor understood one new, unspoken fact. The era of disposable staff might finally have met an opponent who couldn't be thrown away with a petty email. And that's where the story really begins. So if you're still here, make sure you're locked in with the channel. Like this video if the tension already has you hooked. Subscribe so you don't miss how Serafina turns every insult into evidence. And in the comments, tell your own worst boss ever story. Someone else reading might realize they're not crazy, just trapped in their own Crestfield Tower. And this might be the story that gives them the courage to walk out. They started calling it the 9 rings long before anyone hit number 9. It began as a joke from a burned-out analyst on the 38th floor, whispered over the hum of the espresso machine. Every time she fires someone, he said, another ring of Crestfield hell opens. By the time the story crawled its way up to the executive levels, the joke wasn't funny anymore. It was a survival manual wrapped in nervous laughter. Ring 1 was a driver who arrived 3 minutes late because traffic stopped for an ambulance. Morgana watched the dashcam replay in silence, then turned to him with a smile that never touched her eyes. He was gone by sunset. Security deactivated his badge while he was still in the parking lot, fumbling with the steering wheel he no longer had permission to touch. Ring 2 was a stylist who suggested that perhaps, just perhaps, the white suit Morgana loved was a shade too harsh for a daytime charity luncheon. The stylist left the building that afternoon carrying a cardboard box and pretending her eyes were red from allergies. Morgana arrived at the event in the same suit, camera ready, shimmering with the triumph of someone who believed feedback was an act of war. By Ring 3, the staff stopped calling them firings and started calling them disappearances. An events coordinator, personal shopper, an assistant who mispronounced the name of a French gallery Morgana had never actually visited. Each exit came with the same sterile email from HR. We wish them all the best in their future endeavors. And the same unspoken warning. The wicked billionaire's wife did not forgive. She simply erased. The 40th floor learned the new commandments quickly. Do not outshine her in a room with cameras. Do not sit before she sits. Never wear white on days she might come in. Someone added one more in a shaky hand on the back of a break room menu. If she compliments your outfit, start updating your resume. Dorian Crestfield moved through this atmosphere like a ghost who hadn't realized he died. His name was on the tower. His billions funded the foundation every floor pretended to care about. But when Morgana's heels clicked down the corridor, it was Dorian who stepped back first. He tried now and then to soften things with a joke, a quiet comment about Morgana being a little intense today, but no one laughed. The staff learned to read the angle of his jaw instead. The tighter it looked, the worse her mood, the higher the odds that some minor inconvenience would become a termination-worthy offense. He could have stopped her. Everyone knew it. The board, the donors, the assistants who packed their desks into flimsy boxes. But Dorian's power was built on stability, on the illusion that the Crestfield Empire was too polished, too visionary, too generous to be petty. Admitting that his wife treated people like disposable props would mean admitting that the crown jewel of his public image was cracked. So he did nothing. He signed the severance checks. He nodded along in HR briefings. He watched his empire bleed talent and told himself it was easier than confronting the one problem his lawyers couldn't fix without blowing up his life. Be why the time assistant number 7 vanished. The building had reorganized itself around Morgana's moods. People learned to hear her before they saw her. The faint rattle of jewelry, the sharp, staccato rhythm of stilettos against marble, the breathy laugh she used on donors and journalists, which shifted into something cold and metallic the moment the cameras went dark. Conversations died mid-sentence when she turned the corner. Keycards beeped faster. Elevators suddenly filled to capacity. No one wanted to be trapped alone with her between floors, in a mirrored box where there were no witnesses and no escape routes, just her reflection multiplying across all 4 walls like a threat echoed. Ring 8 was the one that changed the air for good. The woman's name was Lila, but Morgana never bothered to learn it. To Morgana, she was just the girl with the too bright lipstick. The one who made the mistake of offering a tissue when Morgana stepped out of a boardroom wiping the corner of her eye. Allergies, Morgana snapped. Lila apologized. She apologized again when Morgana complained about the coffee being exactly 1 degree too cold. She apologized a 3rd time when the elevator doors almost closed on Morgana's suede pump. By lunch. Lila no longer existed on any Crestfield system. Her email bounced. Her calendar vanished. The only proof she'd ever been there were the color-coded sticky notes left behind on someone else's monitor. Each one a small, desperate attempt to keep chaos at bay. After that, no one offered Morgana tissues. No one mentioned the word allergies. The building adjusted, like a body shrinking away from a chronic pain it knew would never be treated. The irony was that the foundation's public messaging revolved around dignity, empowerment, and creating safe spaces for vulnerable communities. Downstairs, the lobby displayed a massive digital screen rotating through photos of smiling beneficiaries. While upstairs, interns timed their bathroom breaks to avoid crossing Morgana's path. The annual gala featured speeches about mental health in the workplace. The week after one such speech, Morgana fired an assistant for taking too long in the stairwell after a panic attack. And through all of it, Dorian's signature appeared at the bottom of every document that made it legal. His voice, calm and controlled, floated through earnings calls and donor briefings, talking about best-in-class culture, while the people who scheduled those calls traded dark jokes about hazard pay. They said the 40th floor view could cure any bad day. Glass from floor to ceiling. The entire city spread out like a model someone had made just for you. Bridges stitched between districts, traffic pulsing like veins, the river flashing coins of light. But no one stood too close to the windows when Morgana was angry. Reflections were dangerous. They reminded you of your posture, your expression, the tiny flickers of annoyance that might cross your face when she spoke. One wrong look and the skyline wouldn't be yours anymore. It got to the point where new hires signed their contracts with a quiet calculation behind their eyes. How long can I last? How fast can I save? Where will I go when she decides I breathe too loudly? Recruiters whispered about the Crestfield tax, the extra salary you'd better demand if you were going to risk working under Morgana, because therapy wasn't cheap and reputations were hard to rebuild once your CV carried the invisible stain of fired by the billionaire's wife. Still, the applications kept pouring in. The Crestfield name was too bright, the offices too glossy, the proximity to power too intoxicating. People told themselves they would be different, smarter, more careful. They would keep their heads down, follow every rule, bring the coffee exactly the way she liked it, never wear anything she might want to borrow, never, ever reveal they had a life outside the building that might inconvenience her schedule. They didn't know that somewhere in the labyrinth of policies and contracts, a quiet anomaly had slipped through. A new hire whose offer letter did not read like a surrender. A woman whose black suit and calm gaze would one day stand across from Morgana's white-hot rage and not flinch. But that was later. For now, the 9 rings of Crestfield hell were complete, and everyone who still had a badge understood one thing with icy clarity. If Morgana decided you didn't belong in her kingdom, not even the man whose name crowned the tower would save you. Serafina Ravenska read the offer letter 3 times before she even touched the pen. The Crestfield logo sat at the top of the page like a crown, all sharp angles and quiet arrogance. Most people would have framed it, she knew, sent a photo to their parents, whispered the salary figure like a confession. But Serafina didn't look at the number first. She went straight to the clauses. The NDA was thick enough to offend her on principle. Standard confidentiality, trade secrets, client lists, non-disparagement. Nothing surprising yet, just the usual corporate paranoia dressed in expensive fonts. Then came the section everyone else skimmed because they assumed it didn't concern them, the spousal clause. A neat little paragraph folding Dorian Crestfield's private life into the Foundation's legal shell, written with just enough ambiguity to let someone like Morgana burn people alive and call the ashes unfortunate misunderstandings. Serafina set the letter down and glanced at the skyline beyond her apartment window. The city glowed, all glass and neon, and the distant flicker of red from some rooftop antenna. Somewhere in that grid, the Crestfield Tower cut into the night, its 40th floor full of people who moved like they were trying not to wake a sleeping monster. She'd read the articles. She'd seen the whispered posts on anonymous forums. She knew exactly what she was walking into. That was why she refused to walk in unarmed. She slid the NDA back toward her, uncapped a pen, and began to mark it up. Not with angry slashes, not with emotional notes, but with surgical precision. Every vague adjective tightened. Every soft may hardened into shall. Everywhere the language bent to shield Morgana, she added a mirror clause that redirected accountability back to the Foundation, to Dorian, to the structure built around her. Then she reached the spousal NDA and smiled just a little. Whoever drafted it had been clever. Not as clever as they thought. The clause described Morgana as an informal ambassador of the Crestfield brand, granting her discretionary social latitude, while still binding her to strict confidentiality regarding financial data, strategic partnerships, and any information that could influence markets. The penalties for violation were there, of course, but positioned like ornamental daggers on a wall, dangerous in theory, never meant to be touched. Serafina took the dagger off the wall. She rewrote the section so that any breach of the spousal NDA triggered automatic internal review, mandatory reporting to the board, and a cascade of financial penalties that could not be quietly buried in miscellaneous losses. She folded in cross-references to securities regulations, insider trading statutes, and fiduciary duties that would make any defense attorney sweat. Most importantly, she added one elegant line that tied enforcement authority to her role as executive director and general counsel, that if Morgana set fire to the rules, Serafina would be the one holding the extinguisher, and the camera. By the time she finished, the document looked less like a shield for the powerful and more like a tripwire web. No one reading it at a cocktail party would notice. But when the wrong person said the wrong thing in the wrong WhatsApp chat, the consequences would slam down like a steel door. She printed the revised pages on heavy paper, clipped them neatly, and slid them into a slim black folder. Then she added one more document, a custom compensation addendum. Base salary, generous. Performance bonus, respectable. But beneath that, in calm, unhurried language, she inserted the clause she cared about most. A $1 million signing bonus, vested after 1 year of continuous employment, payable even in the event of termination without cause, with cause defined so narrowly that Morgana's usual tantrums wouldn't qualify. Any attempt to push her out without airtight justification would be logged as wrongful dismissal, triggering severance multipliers and mandatory arbitration under Rules Serafina. Herself had handpicked. It wasn't greed. It was leverage. People respected what was expensive to break. The interview took place in a private boardroom on the 39th floor, a glass box cantilevered over the city. The view tried to distract. Serafina ignored it. Dorian Crestfield sat at the head of the table, navy suit immaculate, tie knotted with the kind of precision that came from delegating all chaos to other people. His eyes tracked her with the studied politeness of a man used to watching numbers, not faces. "Ms. Ravenska," he said, standing to shake her hand. "Your reputation precedes you." "They usually say that before they ask if the rumors are true," she replied. Her tone was light, but her grip was firm. She sat without waiting to be invited. It was a subtle test. He noticed. The HR director launched into her script, culture, values, growth trajectories, while Dorian watched Serafina like he was waiting for a tell. She let the speech wash over her, nodding at the right moments, filing away every contradiction between the glossy phrases and the internal reports she'd studied the night before. When they finally slid the original NDA across the table, she didn't flinch. "Before I sign," Serafina said, "I'd like to propose some refinements." The HR director blinked. Dorian's fingers tightened around his pen. No one bargained with Crestfield contracts. People begged to receive them. They didn't send them back with track changes. "What kind of refinements?" he asked. She opened the black folder and laid the redrafted pages between them. "The existing clauses are adequate for a mid-tier firm," she said, "but your exposure is substantial, especially where your wife is concerned." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. The HR director shifted in her seat, eyes flicking to Dorian as if checking whether this was a firing offense. Serafina kept her gaze on him alone. "You're aware my wife is not an employee," he said slowly. "I'm aware she has access to proprietary information, attends every major event, and communicates with high-net-worth individuals and public figures on a daily basis," Serafina replied, "which means any impulsive disclosure she makes, online or offline, won't be treated as gossip. It will be treated as a signal. Markets move on signals." Silence stretched between them, thin and tight. Dorian looked down at the marked-up pages. His eyes moved faster now, lingering on certain phrases. Automatic board notification. Mandatory internal review. Enforcement authority delegated to the executive director. Her proposed title sat there on the page like it had always belonged beside his name. "This is aggressive," he murmured. "It's defensive," she said. "Aggression is what happens when you wait until after the headlines hit." The HR director cleared her throat. "And the compensation addendum?" Serafina turned to that section, tapped the line about the $1 million bonus. "You're not just hiring an administrator," she said. "You're hiring a firewall. If I'm going to stand between your empire and the fallout from internal negligence, I need to be anchored strongly enough that volatility." Her eyes flicked, just once, toward the door, toward the floors above them. "Can't blow me out of position on a whim." Dorian followed her gaze. He understood immediately. "You've heard stories," he said. "I've read settlements," she corrected. "And unofficially, I've spoken to one of the 8. There it was, a flicker in his expression. Guilt, irritation, maybe both. He rubbed his thumb along the edge of his pen, a habit she recognized from hours of watching recorded interviews. A man who liked control but hated confrontation. "What do you want, Ms. Ravenska?" he asked at last. Truly, she let the question hang for a heartbeat. Stability, she said. Authority commensurate with responsibility. And the freedom to do my job without wondering if I'll be punished for doing it well. And if that puts you at odds with Morgana, Serafina met his gaze steady. Then the documents should decide, she said. Not her temper, not your guilt. The documents. He exhaled slowly, like someone standing on the edge of a very high ledge, calculating the fall. I'll need time to review these changes, he said. Of course, she replied, already sliding a digital copy across the table on a sleek drive. But understand something, Mr. Crestfield. If you don't hire someone like me, you're not avoiding conflict. You're simply postponing the day someone else forces it on you. Regulators, journalists, plaintiffs' attorneys. She rose, gathering her things with unhurried precision. When that day comes, she added, you'll wish your spousal NDA had teeth. Outside the boardroom, the air on the 39th floor felt cooler, thinner, like the building itself was waiting for a verdict. Assistants glanced up as she passed, eyes flaring with the wary curiosity of people who'd learned that new faces rarely lasted long. Serafina walked to the elevator, pressed the button, and watched her reflection in the polished doors. Unflappable, composed, entirely in control of her own exit route. If they called, she would return, as executive director, as architect of the very trap Morgana had never imagined could be built around her. And if they didn't, well, there were always other towers, other empires, other kings who thought their queens were untouchable. The elevator doors slid open. Serafina stepped inside without looking back, the future of the Crestfield Foundation already quietly rewritten in the red ink of her revisions, waiting for someone upstairs to realize that the only way to save their kingdom was to invite the woman who had just mapped all the fault lines straight into the throne room. Morgana met Serafina for the first time in Dorian's office, and decided within 3 seconds that she didn't like her. It wasn't anything Serafina said. It was what she didn't do. She didn't jump when Morgana swept into the room in a rush of white fabric and diamonds. She didn't lower her eyes or clutch her notebook like a shield. She stood there in that black suit, hands folded loosely in front of her, posture relaxed but precise, as if she'd been expecting a storm and found only a change in the weather. Dorian had been mid-sentence when the door burst open. Morgana, he started, half rising behind the desk. She ignored him. So, she said, eyes raking over Serafina from braided hair to polished shoes, this is the lawyer who thinks she can tell my husband what to do. Serafina smiled faintly. Good morning, Mrs. Crestfield. I'm here to protect the foundation. Wrong answer. Some part of the room seemed to groan. Morgana took a few fluid steps forward, planting one hand on the desk, leaning in like a prosecutor. The glass wall behind her framed the city, blurred by late afternoon light, but all anyone could really see was the angle of her body, sharp as a blade pointed straight at Serafina. Let's be clear, Morgana said. You work for my husband, which means you work for me. Understood. There were a dozen ways to respond. Serafina chose the quietest. I understand that my contract is with the foundation, she said, and that both of you are its stewards. Dorian's jaw tightened. Morgana's lips curved. Too much teeth, not enough warmth. Oh, she's cute, Morgana murmured. She thinks big words will save her. She straightened, turned slightly so she had Dorian in her peripheral vision, the way a queen might acknowledge a king without ever asking permission. Since you're so committed to the foundation, she said, I have a small task for you. Consider it a welcome exercise. Serafina waited. She didn't move. She didn't frown. She simply gave the smallest nod, the kind judges gave when they were prepared to hear nonsense and rule on it later. You know the Aurora Initiative? Morgana asked. One of our largest education programs, Serafina replied, funded partly by Blackstone Meridian. Exactly. And you know Blackstone Meridian's CEO's wife, Morgana continued, has that dreadful obsession with my scarves. Dorian exhaled quietly. Morgana, what? She snapped, not looking at him. She knows this already. Everyone gossips. Let's not pretend. She pivoted back to Serafina, eyes bright with a gleam that had nothing to do with philanthropy. Yesterday, Morgana said, during the Meridian luncheon, I left my Hermes scarf in their private lounge. Not just any scarf. Limited edition. Silk. Hand-rolled. The staff there are idiots, they probably tossed it with the linens. She paused, savoring the next part. I want you, she said slowly, to go to the Meridian Tower, not the lobby, not the conference level, the service entrance. Ask their cleaning crew to open the garbage bins from yesterday and dig until you find my scarf. Then bring it back to me before tomorrow's board breakfast. The room stilled. Even the city felt quieter beyond the glass. Dorian's voice cut through, low and strained. Morgana, that isn't remotely... Remotely what? She said, turning on him. Important? Legal? Appropriate? She laughed, a brittle sound. It's my property. My loss. Our partner's negligence. I'm sure our new executive director understands the importance of relationship management. Her gaze pinned Serafina again. If their cleaning staff has already thrown it out, Morgana continued, you will verify that yourself, with your own eyes, with whatever legal thoroughness you were so proud of in your interview. I don't want an excuse. I want certainty. Serafina felt the weight of Dorian's stare on her profile. A warning, a question, maybe even a flicker of apology he didn't intend her to see. She let the silence stretch a heartbeat longer. Then she inclined her head. Understood, she said. I'll have an update before close of business. Morgana's brows lifted, as if she'd been expecting resistance and found compliance almost disappointing. Good, she said. I'll be in my suite. Try not to track the smell of their trash back into my office. She turned on her heel and swept out, leaving behind a faint trace of expensive perfume and something harsher underneath. Burnt sugar over a gas flame. The door clicked shut. Dorian sagged back against the desk, fingers pressing into the polished wood. You don't have to do that, he said quietly. I'll smooth it over. Serafina looked at him, expression unreadable. With respect, she replied. You already had 8 chances to smooth similar things over. How did that work out for the foundation? Color flickered along his cheekbones. He opened his mouth, closed it. I won't ask any of my staff to accompany me, she added. I'll handle it personally. That's not the point, he said. This is beneath your... It's evidence, she said, soft enough that he had to lean in to hear. It's also an opportunity to test just how far your wife expects the foundation's resources to bend around her whims. He stared at her. You're going to turn this into a case file, he murmured. I'm going to document reality, she answered. What you do with it later is up to you. The Meridian Tower service corridor smelled like bleach and overcooked oil. Serafina stepped carefully, black pumps clicking against concrete instead of Crestfield marble. Her tailored suit the only expensive thing in a hallway lined with rolling carts and plastic bins. A harried supervisor blinked at the embossed Crestfield card she'd presented. Then at her face. Then at the email confirmation she'd had legal draft for chain of custody purposes. You really want the trash from yesterday, ma'am? He asked. I want access to the laundry bins and the waste containers from the private lounge on level 32, she said. We're looking for a silk scarf that may have been discarded by accident. He led her to a cavernous room buzzing with fluorescent lights. Bags rustled. Machines hummed. Staff in hairnets and gloves moved with the bored efficiency of people who had seen every kind of stain and stopped being impressed. Serafina didn't touch a single bag. She stood to the side, arms folded, eyes sharp, as the supervisor barked instructions to his team. They opened the carts, checked each stack of linens, shook out sheets and tablecloths. No scarf. They moved to the waste bins from the lounge, carefully separating food scraps from bald napkins, scanning every glimpse of color. Still nothing. Ma'am, we've gone through everything from that floor, the supervisor said at last, breathing a little harder. If it was here, it's gone now. The truck took the rest this morning. Thank you, Serafina said. Could you sign this for me? She handed him a printed form, simple, non-threatening, a brief acknowledgement that the search had been conducted at her request, that no scarf matching the description was found, and that remaining waste from that day had been removed from the premises. He signed, curiosity narrowing his eyes, but he didn't ask questions. People rarely did when faced with an expensive suit and a calm voice. Back in the Crestfield car, she sat in the back seat, phone balanced on her knee. She opened a new email and addressed it to Dorian, copying the CFO, HR director, and Morgana's personal assistant. Subject: post-luncheon property retrieval, use of foundation time and resources. Her fingers moved quickly, but not carelessly. Per Mrs. Crestfield's verbal instruction at 10:14 a.m. today, she wrote, I allocated approximately 2.7 hours of executive director time, plus driver and vehicle resources, to investigate the potential loss of her personal Hermes scarf at the Blackstone Meridian Tower. She detailed the sequence: the request, the arrival at Meridian, the involvement of their facilities team, the search parameters, the negative results, the signed confirmation. Every timestamp precise, every action attributed. She attached a scanned copy of the supervisor's statement and a discrete note estimating the internal cost of the diversion, logged against miscellaneous. Executive operational support for now, at the end, she added one measured line. Please confirm whether similar personal retrieval assignments should be categorized as billable to the Crestfield Foundation or to Mrs. Crestfield's private account going forward, so that finance can establish a consistent precedent. She read the email twice. No accusation, no emotion, just light, focused pressure in the exact spot where the structure of power and money intersected. Then she hit send. When she stepped out of the elevator onto the 40th floor, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations stalled. Eyes tracked her progress. The rumor engine had clearly already started. People knew she'd been sent on a scavenger hunt through another empire's garbage. Morgana was waiting in Dorian's office, leaning against the desk, white suit glowing under the soft lights. Well? She demanded as Serafina entered. Did you find it? No, Serafina said. Meridian staff assisted in a full search of relevant bins and laundry. We confirmed the scarf is no longer on site. I've documented their cooperation. Morgana's eyes narrowed. Documented? Yes, Serafina replied. For our records. In case the loss affects any future interactions with them. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Morgana's face, gone almost as soon as it arrived. Dorian was behind the desk, one hand resting on a stack of papers he wasn't reading. His phone buzzed once. He glanced down, thumb brushing the screen, and Serafina watched the tension travel up his shoulders as he read the email she'd sent from the car. Morgana seemed to sense the shift. What's wrong now? She snapped. It's a scarf, Dorian. Don't start with your budget lectures. He didn't answer. Not right away. Instead, his gaze lifted to Serafina with something new in it. Wariness, yes, but also a reluctant respect. She met it calmly. This had been her first command from the Queen. A petty errand, designed to test humiliation, to see whether the new woman in black could be bent like all the others. Serafina had obeyed. Perfectly. But she had also laid down the first stone of a record that would one day show exactly how Morgana treated the Foundation as her personal trash chute. And as she stood there in Dorian's office, the city glittering beyond the glass, Morgana's fury simmering in white silk, Serafina knew something with cold clarity. The Queen had made her move. Now the architect of the NDA had started drawing the map of her downfall. By the end of the first month, the 40th floor had learned something new about Serafina Ravenska. She never raised her voice. She never rushed. She never flinched when Morgana's did all three at once. It started with small tests, the way a child pokes at the edge of a fence to see if it's electric. Serafina, Morgana called one morning, not looking up from her phone as she lounged on the leather sofa in Dorian's office. Cancel the youth mental health roundtable this afternoon. I need the conference room for a private trunk show. They'll send over the jewelry at 3. Clear everyone out by 2. Serafina glanced at her tablet. We have partner organizations flying in for that roundtable. Canceling same day will damage our commitments and their budgets. Morgana finally looked at her. Did I ask for a sermon? She said. Or a schedule adjustment? Dorian sat behind his desk, pen hovering, eyes fixed on a document he wasn't really reading. Serafina let a beat pass. Understood, she said. I'll handle it. She walked out, heels quiet on the marble, straight to her office, straight to her computer. Subject: reallocation of boardroom, program disruption. Notice she detailed the original purpose of the roundtable, the time-sensitive nature of the mental health initiative, the travel arrangements already funded by the foundation, and the reason for cancellation. Private luxury vendor presentation requested by Mrs. Morgana Crestfield, non-program related. She copied the CFO, the head of programs, HR, legal. She attached the partner contracts, highlighting the clauses about cancellation penalties. At the bottom, she added a simple question. Please advise whether the associated costs should be reclassified under philanthropic programming or personal hospitality. Then she hit send and, 10 minutes later, walked calmly to the events team to help them deliver the bad news to their partners with as much dignity as possible. Morgana saw none of that. What she saw, when the room was cleared on schedule and the jewelry cases glittered under the recessed lights, was obedience. Her command had been carried out. No visible fight, no tears, no slammed doors, just the soft, efficient rearranging of a world to suit her impulse. See, she said to Dorian, lifting a diamond bracelet from its velvet bed. This one listens. Her experiments grew bolder. Serafina, call my esthetician and book an emergency appointment. Yes, during working hours. Use the foundation car. I don't feel like driving. Serafina, have operations send 2 interns to my penthouse to help organize my closet. They can log it as community engagement. Fashion is culture. Serafina, I want the social media team to promote my charity brunch. No, not the foundation one, the private one at the villa. Tag the designer sponsors. Make sure my handle is front and center. Every time, Serafina responded with the same mild of course, or I'll coordinate. Voice smooth as glass. She asked just enough clarifying questions to make the request sound boring. She never rolled her eyes, never sighed, never let irritation crack through her composure in a way anyone could screenshot. What Morgana didn't see were the logs. Serafina built them slowly, the way architects pour foundations, layer by layer, each one curing in silence before the next is added. The first document was a simple spreadsheet. Column A, date. Column B, time. Column C, instruction given by Mrs. Morgana Crestfield. Column D, nature of task, personal/foundation related. Column E, potential code of conduct conflict. Column F, involved departments or staff. Column G, estimated cost to foundation. Column H, evidence, emails, messages, witness names. She didn't name the file anything dramatic, just executive support activity log. She stored it in a folder with an equally bland label. Anyone stumbling across it would assume it was a productivity tracker. She made notes after every encounter. When Morgana demanded the interns for her closet, Serafina logged the hours lost from program work, the mileage on the company vehicle, the overtime paid when those same interns had to stay late to complete their actual tasks. She pulled the Foundation's code of conduct from the server and cross-referenced the section on misuse of organizational resources. A neat yes appeared in column E. When Morgana insisted that a staff designer spend an entire afternoon mocking up invitation options for a private yacht party. Serafina saved the email chain, highlighted the phrases for my personal event and just bill your time to the Foundation, and added the file path under evidence. Whenever Morgana's requests targeted a specific employee, especially the young, the new, the visibly anxious. Serafina noted their names, roles, and how the instruction deviated from their job description. She never intervened in a way that could be labeled insubordination. She simply made sure reality had a paper trail. Morgana mistook the quiet for defeat. She began staging little scenes, as if she were testing an actress point one afternoon. With the city blazing behind the glass, Morgana stood at the edge of Dorian's desk and waved a set of keys at Serafina. "My dog walker canceled," she announced. "Take my chihuahua to the groomer. The good one in Westfield, not the cheap place. And stay. Make sure they get the cut right this time." Last time he came back looking like a rescue. Dorian looked up sharply. "Morgana, Serafina is not." "She works for us," Morgana snapped. "All of this," she gestured around the office, "is us. If she's too important to help, maybe she's not the team player you said she was." Serafina held out her hand for the keys. "I'll have my driver take us," she said. "While I'm there, I can review the partnership contracts on my tablet." Morgana's eyes glittered with something vicious. "A lawyer walking a dog," she said. "How poetic." As soon as the elevator doors closed, Serafina pulled out her phone.to. Self-secure archive. Subject: personal errand use of executive timesheet dictated the details in clipped, unemotional phrases. Time left office. Name of dog. Location of groomer. Lines from Morgana's request, not quoted word for word, but summarized with legal clarity. Personal grooming appointment unrelated to foundation operations. Explicit requirement that executive director attend for full duration. Back at her desk later, she expanded the note into a formal memorandum for internal record keeping. It joined the growing stack in a private, encrypted archive. A parallel history of the Crestfield Foundation, one that would never appear in glossy annual reports. The more Morgana pushed, the more serene Serafina became. There were moments when Morgana tried to provoke something raw. She raised her voice in hallways, accusing Serafina of not understanding loyalty. She made cutting remarks about her background, her schooling, the fact that she'd grown up without money and now wrapped herself in law degrees like armor. She scheduled meetings at the last minute and then arrived 40 minutes late, insisting Serafina stay standing the entire time out of respect. Each time, Serafina's response was the same. Measured, professional, irritatingly calm. "Yes, Mrs. Crestfield. I understand, Mrs. Crestfield. I'll revise the schedule." To the watching staff, it looked like submission. Like the new executive director had learned, as everyone eventually did, that resisting Morgana only worsened the pain. People in the break room shook their heads and whispered that even the clever ones broke. The security guards lowered their eyes when she passed, as if embarrassed for her. Morgana drank in that perception like champagne. "She knows her place," Morgana said one evening, adjusting an earring in Dorian's office window, using the city lights as a mirror. "You see? This is how it should be. No drama, no attitude, just obedience." Dorian watched Serafina through the half-open door as she spoke quietly with HR about a benefits issue. Her expression neutral, her hands steady. "I see that she's efficient," he said. "That's not the same thing as obedient." Morgana laughed. "That's why you hire them," she said. "That's why they stay." What she didn't understand was that Serafina had no intention of staying under the same rules as the 8 before her. She studied their files when no one was looking. HR labeled them confidential, but her role gave her clearance. Each termination letter told the sanitized version: cultural misalignment, failure to meet evolving expectations. Then she read the exit interview notes, the complaints about being sent to pick up dry cleaning during program hours, to arrange last-minute spa days while grant proposals sat unfinished, to scrub private social media posts of any photo that featured Morgana's profile without the right filter. Patterns emerged. Same triggers. Same language. Same escalation from petty humiliation to full-blown character assassination. Serafina began cross-referencing those stories with her log. The overlap was almost perfect, so she added another tab to the spreadsheet. Tab 2. Comparative termination factors. She listed each former assistant, their timeline, the personal errands they'd been ordered to perform, the moments when they'd finally said no. In a separate column, she noted where the Foundation's code of conduct, and, in some cases, labor law had been quietly trampled. She didn't need emotion to build a case. She needed volume, repetition, consistency. Morgana's tantrums supplied all 3.1 late night. Long after most of the floor had gone home, Serafina stood alone in her office. The city spread beneath the glass like circuitry. On her screen, the log glowed, rows and rows of neatly organized transgressions, each one a brick in the wall she was building around Morgana's behavior. If someone walked in, they would see only a woman working too late. Serafina saw something else. Every email, every calendar change, every urgent personal task shoved into a workday. It was all weight, liability waiting to be tallied. Morgana thought she was watching Serafina crack. In reality, Serafina was weighing her. How much chaos, how much cost, how much documented misconduct it would take to make even a man like Dorian Crestfield look at his ledger and realize that one woman's tantrums were more expensive than any divorce settlement. Until that day came, Serafina would keep doing exactly what she was doing. Complying, logging, quietly turning Morgana's favorite weapon, humiliation, into a different kind of blade paper, ink timestamps. Morgana's flaw announced itself with a ring light. It appeared one Monday morning in her private lounge on the 40th floor, a perfect circle of artificial halo propped on a sleek tripod, facing the city like it was an audience that hadn't yet clapped loudly enough. She started taking calls in front of it, adjusting her hair in the mirrored glass, angling her face and chin the way influencers did, as if the world needed proof that the wicked billionaire's wife had never heard of bad angles. Serafina noticed the change in the same way she noticed everything else. Quietly, from the edges. Morgana's meetings grew shorter. Her emergencies grew longer. She would vanish into the lounge for 40 minutes with her phone and come back humming, eyes bright, temper briefly softened by the glow of hearts and comments on whatever private platform she'd chosen as her kingdom. Staff whispered that she was building her personal brand. Serafina saw something more dangerous. A woman with access to confidential information and a compulsive need to display her life like a luxury showroom. The first real sign came during a charity planning session. They were seated around the long glass table in the conference room, the city laid out beneath them like a backdrop she'd ordered. Dorian, the head of programs, the PR director, and Serafina. Morgana arrived late, phone in hand, still laughing at something on the screen. "Let's make this fast," she said, dropping into a chair without apology. "I have a live room waiting." The PR director cleared his throat. "We're here to finalize talking points for the expansion announcement. The official press release is scheduled for next month, after the regulatory paperwork is." "Next month is boring," Morgana said. "I want a tease. Something that makes people beg for details. We can't reveal the acquisition before the filings are complete," Serafina said. "You know that." Morgana waved a hand. "Relax, counsel. I won't say acquisition. I'll just hint." She lifted her phone, angled it toward herself, and in the polished surface of the conference table Serafina caught the reflection of an open app. Private, invite only. The kind of gated social network where billionaires and their orbiting satellites traded status like currency. A live room icon pulsed in the corner. "Morgana," Dorian said quietly, "maybe save the live for after the meeting." "I can multitask," she replied. "Watch." With the casual ease of someone who'd rehearsed this gesture 100 times, she hit go live. "Darlings," she purred into the camera, smile snapping into place. "You are catching me between back-to-back meetings at the Crestfield Foundation. We are making decisions that will change the city. Again." Hearts flickered up the screen. Questions popped in a streaming column Serafina couldn't read from where she sat. But she didn't need to. She could see the intoxication on Morgana's face as usernames begged for hints. "Can I say this?" Morgana said, not muting the audio, eyes gleaming. No, I shouldn't. My lawyers will kill me. She looked straight at Serafina as she said it, as if daring her. Serafina kept her expression neutral. That would be advisable, she replied. Morgana laughed into the phone. See? She's so strict. But you all know I can't keep secrets when I'm excited. She shifted the camera angle slightly, capturing a sliver of the Crestfield logo on the wall and the edge of the presentation slide on the screen behind them. The slide that clearly, unmistakably, contained the name of the hospital network they were in talks to absorb. We may or may not, she continued, be about to become the biggest private healthcare player on the Eastern Seaboard. But you didn't hear that from me. The PR director choked on his coffee. Dorian's pen stopped mid-scratch. Serafina's mind clicked through clauses like a deck of cards. Spousal NDA. Non-disclosure of material, non-public information. Prohibition against statements that could reasonably be interpreted as forward-looking market signals. The very sections she had redrafted, strengthened, and had Dorian sign, with Morgana's counter-signature neatly inked at the bottom. And the live, Dorian said under his breath. Morgana ignored him, bathing in the wave of reactions. Oh, and to my favorite hater in this room, she said, eyes gliding pointedly over Serafina. Yes, this will affect valuations. No, I do not care. You all know my motto. If you're not moving markets, why are you even at the table? It took Dorian physically reaching over and covering the camera for the stream to stutter and cut. What the hell was that? He hissed. Relax, Morgana said again, tugging the phone back. It's a private circle. Half the people in that room already know more than we do. This is just entertainment. Serafina's voice was calm when it came. In that private circle, she said, are there any investors, partners, or individuals with trading authority? Morgana rolled her eyes. Everyone with money has trading authority. Then you just made a forward-looking disclosure about a non-public acquisition to a curated group of high-net-worth individuals, Serafina said, on a platform that logs, stores, and can leak content. That is the opposite of entertainment. Morgana's jaw tightened. You're overreacting, she snapped. It was vague. The phrase biggest private healthcare player on the Eastern Seaboard is not vague, Serafina replied. Combined with our known portfolio, the logo behind you, and the timing, it's a puzzle even an average analyst could solve. Dorian closed his eyes for a second, as if pressing back a headache. Morgana, he said, quieter now. This is exactly what the NDA addresses. She turned on him. Oh, don't you start hiding behind her documents, she said. You wanted me to be the face of this place. Faces need followers. Followers need access. That's how influence works. Serafina didn't argue. There was no point. Not in that moment. She simply said, Could I see your phone for a second? Morgana hesitated, suspicion flaring. Why? So I can evaluate the exposure and recommend immediate steps, Serafina said. If the live is still archived, we may need to act within the hour. Dorian added, Give it to her. Morgana handed it over with a theatrical sigh. The app was still open. The live had ended, but the replay sat there, neatly saved, with a viewer count ticking slowly upward. Comments scrolled, full of praise and emojis and the occasional pointed question about which hospital stock to watch. Serafina took exactly 3 seconds to absorb what she needed. Then, in one smooth motion, she hit the option to save the video to device and, almost simultaneously, the option to delete it from the platform. What are you doing? Morgana demanded. Preserving evidence, Serafina said, while minimizing ongoing harm. She handed the phone back. The replay is gone from the platform, she added. But you should assume that at least one viewer recorded it. We need to be prepared for that. Morgana looked like she'd been slapped. You had no right to. I executed my responsibility under the NDA you signed, Serafina said, and this time there was the faintest edge under the smoothness. If you'd like to review your obligations, I'll send you a copy. The room crackled with a tension that felt new. Not just fear, not just irritation. Something sharper, like the first hairline fracture in tempered glass. Morgana stood abruptly. "I'm done with this meeting," she said. "If you two want to drown in legal paranoia, be my guest. I have real people to talk to." She stalked out, door slamming hard enough to make the glass shiver. The second the latch clicked, Serafina lowered her gaze to her tablet and began typing .to. Self-Evidence Archive. Subject: Unauthorized forward-looking disclosure spousal NDA breach. She recorded the date, time, participants, platform used, key phrases Morgana had spoken, and the context of the planned acquisition. She noted Dorian's reactions, the PR director's visible alarm. She attached a brief audio clip she'd captured from the conference room recording system, just enough to verify tone and words if needed. Later that afternoon, alone in her office, she opened her secure archive and added a new folder. Category: NDA violations, spousal. The saved video went in first, encrypted and backed up. Her memo followed. Cross-references to the exact clauses in the NDA. Potential regulatory triggers. Recommended remedial actions. She wrote them concisely. Prepare internal incident report for board audit file. Monitor market chatter and trading activity around the named hospital network. Draft holding statement in case of leak, framing Morgana's comments as speculative philanthropy rhetoric with no bearing on actual strategic decisions. She did not send the full memo. Not yet. Instead, she composed a shorter, sanitized version addressed to Dorian alone. Today at 11:42 a.m., Mrs. Crestfield made statements on a private live-streaming platform that may be interpreted as forward-looking and material in relation to pending healthcare expansion activities. I recommend we schedule a brief call to discuss containment and documentation measures. No blame, no heat, just facts. Within minutes, a single-line reply appeared. Come to my office in 10. When she arrived, Dorian was standing by the window, jacket off, tie loosened. The city glowed below, oblivious to the way one woman's vanity might have just nudged millions in potential liability. How bad is it? He asked. If that video gets out? Bad enough, Serafina said. Not catastrophic yet, but if regulators connect her statements to unusual trading patterns, we will have questions to answer. He scrubbed a hand over his face. She doesn't understand, he said. She thinks platforms like that are private parties, rooms full of friends. They're rooms full of strangers with screenshots, Serafina said, and some of them would love nothing more than to say they were first to know what Crestfield would buy next. He nodded slowly. And the NDA? He asked. From your perspective, was this a breach? The question hung there, heavy. Yes, Serafina said. Clear and documented. The only variable now is whether you treat it like one. He stared at her, and in that moment she knew he understood exactly what she was really saying. The weapon she'd designed, the strengthened spousal clause, the automatic triggers, the board obligations, had just been tested in the wild. Not theoretically, not hypothetically. In real time, with real stakes. Morgana's flaw wasn't gossip. It wasn't cruelty. Those were symptoms. Her flaw was need. A need to be seen, adored, envied, fed by a constant stream of attention she could no longer get from the people trapped in her tower. So she chased it on screens where every slip of her tongue could become a time-stamped confession. Serafina walked back to her office as the sun slid lower, painting the city in burnished gold on her monitor. The saved clip sat in its encrypted vault, a tiny rectangle of moving light where Morgana smiled, bragged, and casually stepped over a line she had sworn not to cross. Serafina watched it once more, not for the content, but for the pattern. The tilt of Morgana's head when the comments spiked, the way her eyes flicked to the viewer count, the way her voice warmed when she realized people were reacting to the hint of forbidden knowledge more than any official press release. Addiction, she thought, not to substances, to reaction. That, more than any clause on paper, would be what brought her down. Because paper could be amended, lawyers could be paid, statements could be spun. But a woman who needed the world to know she was important would always, eventually, say too much. So Serafina did the one thing that mattered. She hit save again, watching the progress bar complete, and silently welcomed the newest piece of evidence into her growing arsenal. The downfall of Morgana Crestfield would not begin with a courtroom or a headline. It had already begun, with a ring light, a private live room, and a screenshot that no delete button could erase. By the time Morgana escalated to crime, the 40th floor had already learned to live with cruelty. They could stomach the tantrums, the firings, the errands that blurred the line between personal and professional. They could hold their breath through her ring light monologues and pretend not to hear when she mocked them in group chats she forgot were screenshot friendly. But even in a building that worshipped money, there was still a line. Morgana just refused to believe it started on a Wednesday when the sky over the city looked like brushed steel. Serafina had just finished a finance review with the CFO, a quiet, meticulous man who treated numbers like fragile glass. They had walked through liability projections, updated the wrongful dismissal fund, and delicately skirted the subject of spousal-related expenses that kept bulging in red. By the time she stepped back into the corridor, her head was full of percentages and precedents. Morgana's assistant was waiting by her door, pale and breathless. "Mrs. Crestfield wants you in the penthouse office," she said. "Now." Serafina glanced at her watch. "I have a compliance call in 7 minutes." The assistant swallowed. She said, "Cancel it." There was a tremor in the girl's voice that told Serafina this wasn't another dog groomer emergency. This was something heavier, hotter, the kind of request that made even those who had learned to survive Morgana's moods feel like they were being pushed toward an open window. The elevator to the penthouse opened onto silence and too much glass. Dorian's office up here was bigger, colder, the city dropping away beneath it like an afterthought. He stood behind the desk, jacket off, tie loosened, hands pressed flat to the wood as if to steady himself. Morgana occupied the other side of the room, white suit blazing, phone in one hand, a slim folder in the other. "Finally," she said when Serafina entered. "Close the door." Serafina did, the latch clicking with a sound that felt more final than it should have. Morgana thrust the folder onto the desk and flipped it open. Inside, neat as surgery, sat printed statements, wire confirmations, shell company charts. Names of islands that never appeared on tourist brochures. Bank logos from jurisdictions Serafina had spent entire semesters studying under the heading High Risk. "I need this cleaned up," Morgana said. Dorian's eyes flicked to Serafina with a silent plea, or warning, or both. "Clarify cleaned up," Serafina said. Morgana slid a manicured finger down one of the pages. "These accounts are inconvenient," she said. "Too many signatures, too much scrutiny. I want everything moved into a single offshore vehicle under my control. No foundation oversight, no board audit trail, just a personal contingency fund." Her smile was bright and empty. For emergencies, Serafina didn't sit. She tracked the numbers instead, eyes tracing the flow. Some accounts were clearly Morgana's own. Others were not. They bore foundation subentity names, endowment codes, grant cycle markers, donor-restricted funds that had no business sharing space with private yachts and personal wellness retreats. "These aren't just your assets," Serafina said. "The foundation is my asset," Morgana replied. "Dorian told me that the day he put my name on the tower wall." "What's the difference?" "The difference," Serafina said, "is 10 to 20 years in federal prison." The words landed like stones. Dorian flinched. Morgana's smile froze, cracked, then hardened. "You're being dramatic," she said. "Everyone does this. We're just optimizing tax exposure." Serafina stepped closer, the pages catching light as she turned them. "Shifting donor funds into an undisclosed personal offshore account is not optimization," she said. "It is fraud, embezzlement. If those funds cross borders without reporting, we add money laundering to the list. No structure you build on this is legal. Morgana's eyes narrowed. Then make it legal, she snapped. That's what you're here for. You drafted that ridiculous spousal NDA. You bury things. Bury this. Dorian finally spoke, voice low. Morgana, Serafina's right. We can't touch designated funds. We? She said, turning on him. You owe me, Dorian. You dragged me onto every red carpet. You made me smile for donors I couldn't stand. I've given this place my face, my time, my reputation. You think I'm gonna walk away with nothing if things go sideways? Her gaze snapped back to Serafina. You will structure this transfer, she said. You will find some exotic loophole in your law books. Call it a management fee, a security buffer, whatever. You'll draft the paperwork, and you will not mention it to the board. Serafina felt, more than saw, the weight of the room tilt. This was the summit. Every petty abuse, every misused intern, every harmless live stream had been steps up a mountain of impunity. Now they were at the edge. One more step and the ground would be gone. Her voice, when it came, was almost gentle. No, the word hung there, small and absolute. Morgana blinked. Excuse me? No, Serafina repeated. I will not structure, authorize, or conceal a transfer that misappropriates Foundation assets. I will not advise you on how to commit a crime. Silence pressed in, thick as glass. Morgana laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. You seem confused, she said. You don't get to say no to me. You're an employee. I'm an officer of the Foundation, Serafina said, and an attorney. I am bound by law, by ethics, and by the code of conduct you insisted didn't apply to you. If I participate in what you're asking, I lose my license. I lose my freedom. I will not do that to protect your spending money. Morgana's hand slammed down on the folder. You think I won't find someone else? She hissed. There are 100 lawyers who would kill for your job. I'm sure there are, Serafina said. They can meet with you once I'm gone. But before that happens, I will be documenting this request and notifying the appropriate internal channels that I declined an unlawful instruction. Dorian's eyes snapped to her at that, alarm and something like hope mixing in the lines of his face. Morgana stepped around the desk, closing the distance until they were breath to breath. You ungrateful little clerk, she whispered. Do you have any idea what I can do to you? I can blacklist you from every board in the city. I can make sure your name is a cautionary tale. I can spin you as unstable, insubordinate, obsessed with control. People will believe me. They always do. I have the followers. I have the cameras. You have spreadsheets. Serafina didn't move. What I have, she said, is a complete archive of every time you misused Foundation resources, harassed staff, or flirted with breaching securities laws on camera. What I do not have is fear of losing access to your parties. Morgana stared at her like she was an unfamiliar insect. Then the fury ignited. Fine, she spat. You want to play righteous? Be righteous somewhere else. You're done here. She spun toward Dorian. I am terminating her, she declared. Effective immediately. Draft whatever you have to draft. But she is out. Today. Dorian's mouth opened. Closed. Morgana, we need to. Now, she screamed. She refused a direct order. That's insubordination. Fire her. Serafina watched him, the man whose silence had allowed 8 others to be erased. She saw the war on his face, the reflex to appease, the instinct to avoid open conflict, the dawning realization that this particular firing was not a tantrum he could later explain away. Mr. Crestfield, she said quietly, cutting through the chaos. Before you act, I need to state something on the record. Morgana World, you don't have a record. But Serafina was already speaking, voice level, eyes on Dorian. At approximately 10:23 a.m., she said, Mrs. Crestfield instructed me to prepare documentation for an undisclosed offshore transfer of funds that include donor-restricted foundation assets. I declined, citing legal and ethical prohibitions. She is now attempting to terminate my employment for that refusal. Dorian swallowed, Adam's apple bobbing. Serafina? If you proceed with this termination, she continued, I will classify it as retaliatory and unlawful. Our contracts, board policies, and regulatory obligations require me to report what just occurred to the audit committee, internal counsel, and, if necessary, external authorities. Morgana's face flushed a dangerous crimson. Get out. Serafina turned to her almost kindly. I will, she said, after I send one email. Morgana lunged as if to snatch the phone from Serafina's hand, but Dorian stepped between them on instinct. His arm caught Morgana's wrist. The move startled them both. Enough, he said, and the word carried more weight than it had in years. Morgana jerked away, betrayal flaring in her eyes. You're taking her side? I'm taking the side that doesn't end with indictments, he said. For a heartbeat, the room held 3 different kinds of breathing. Morgana's ragged, Serafina's controlled, Dorian's somewhere in between. Serafina looked at him, giving him one last clear path. You can suspend me if you feel you must, she said. You can launch an investigation. You cannot, however, erase what was just requested, or that I refused. He closed his eyes just once. When he opened them again, something had shifted. Serafina, he said, go back to your office. File your internal report. Effective immediately. All discussions of asset transfers involving donor funds are frozen pending review. Morgana stared at him as if he'd grown another head. You're choosing her over me? She whispered. I'm choosing the foundation over prison, he said. The words seemed to rip something in her. You think this place exists without me? She screamed. You think donors come for your spreadsheets? They come for me, my face, my name. You let this Ice Queen threaten me, threaten us, and you will regret it. Serafina didn't answer. She simply picked up the folder, closed it, and set it back on the desk. Do not destroy these documents, she said. They are now potential evidence. Morgana laughed, high and wild. You're fired, she hissed. I don't care what he says. You're finished. Serafina met her gaze, unblinking. If that is your official position as of this moment, she said, then please repeat it clearly for the record. Morgana opened her mouth. Fury-loaded Dorian got there first. No, he said. Morgana, you do not have authority to terminate executive staff unilaterally. Not anymore. The silence that followed felt like a cliff edge. Serafina inclined her head. The smallest acknowledgement of a battle deferred. Not one. She turned, opened the door, and walked out into the corridor, pulse steady to be by the time the elevator doors slid shut. Her report was already half written in her mind. Date, time, participants, verbatim requests, her refusal, Morgana's retaliation. The summit of abuse had finally revealed what Serafina had been climbing toward all along. Not just a case for wrongful dismissal, but a blueprint for something far larger and far more dangerous than a wicked wife who liked firing assistants, an empire willing to flirt with crime to protect her whims, and a lawyer who had just calmly and irrevocably said no. By the time Morgana escalated to crime, the 40th floor had already learned to live with cruelty. They could stomach the tantrums, the firings, the errands that blurred the line between personal and professional. They could hold their breath through her ring light monologues and pretend not to hear when she mocked them in group chats she forgot were screenshot friendly. But even in a building that worshipped money, there was still a line. Morgana just refused to believe IT started on a Wednesday when the sky over the city looked like brushed steel. Serafina had just finished a finance review with the CFO, a quiet, meticulous man who treated numbers like fragile glass. They had walked through liability projections, updated the wrongful dismissal fund, and delicately skirted the subject of spousal-related expenses that kept bulging in red. By the time she stepped back into the corridor, her head was full of percentages and precedents. Morgana's assistant was waiting by her door, pale and breathless. "Mrs. Crestfield wants you in the penthouse office," she said. "Now." Serafina glanced at her watch. "I have a compliance call in 7 minutes." The assistant swallowed. She said, "Cancel it." There was a tremor in the girl's voice that told Serafina this wasn't another dog groomer emergency. This was something heavier, hotter, the kind of request that made even those who had learned to survive Morgana's moods feel like they were being pushed toward an open window. The elevator to the penthouse opened onto silence and too much glass. Dorian's office up here was bigger, colder, the city dropping away beneath it like an afterthought. He stood behind the desk, jacket off, tie loosened, hands pressed flat to the wood as if to steady himself. Morgana occupied the other side of the room, white suit blazing, phone in one hand, a slim folder in the other. "Finally," she said when Serafina entered. "Close the door." Serafina did, the latch clicking with a sound that felt more final than it should have. Morgana thrust the folder onto the desk and flipped it open. Inside, neat as surgery, sat printed statements, wire confirmations, shell company charts. Names of islands that never appeared on tourist brochures. Bank logos from jurisdictions Serafina had spent entire semesters studying under the heading High Risk. "I need this cleaned up," Morgana said. Dorian's eyes flicked to Serafina with a silent plea, or warning, or both. "Clarify cleaned up," Serafina said. Morgana slid a manicured finger down one of the pages. "These accounts are inconvenient," she said. "Too many signatures, too much scrutiny. I want everything moved into a single offshore vehicle under my control. No foundation oversight, no board audit trail, just a personal contingency fund." Her smile was bright and empty. For emergencies, Serafina didn't sit. She tracked the numbers instead, eyes tracing the flow. Some accounts were clearly Morgana's own. Others were not. They bore foundation subentity names, endowment codes, grant cycle markers, donor-restricted funds that had no business sharing space with private yachts and personal wellness retreats. "These aren't just your assets," Serafina said. "The foundation is my asset," Morgana replied. "Dorian told me that the day he put my name on the tower wall." "What's the difference?" "The difference," Serafina said, "is 10 to 20 years in federal prison." The words landed like stones. Dorian flinched. Morgana's smile froze, cracked, then hardened. "You're being dramatic," she said. "Everyone does this. We're just optimizing tax exposure." Serafina stepped closer, the pages catching light as she turned them. "Shifting donor funds into an undisclosed personal offshore account is not optimization," she said. "It is fraud, embezzlement. If those funds cross borders without reporting, we add money laundering to the list. No structure you build on this is legal." Morgana's eyes narrowed. "Then make it legal," she snapped. "That's what you're here for. You drafted that ridiculous spousal NDA. You bury things. Bury this." Dorian finally spoke, voice low. "Morgana, Serafina's right. We can't touch designated funds." "We?" she said, turning on him. "You owe me, Dorian. You dragged me onto every red carpet. You made me smile for donors I couldn't stand. I've given this place my face, my time, my reputation. You think I'm gonna walk away with nothing if things go sideways?" Her gaze snapped back to Serafina. "You will structure this transfer," she said. "You will find some exotic loophole in your law books. Call it a management fee, a security buffer, whatever. You'll draft the paperwork, and you will not mention it to the board." Serafina felt, more than saw, the weight of the room tilt. This was the summit. Every petty abuse, every misused intern, every harmless live stream had been steps up a mountain of impunity. Now they were at the edge. One more step and the ground would be gone. Her voice, when it came, was almost gentle. No, the word hung there, small and absolute. Morgana blinked. Excuse me? No, Serafina repeated. I will not structure, authorize, or conceal a transfer that misappropriates Foundation assets. I will not advise you on how to commit a crime. Silence pressed in, thick as glass. Morgana laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. You seem confused, she said. You don't get to say no to me. You're an employee. I'm an officer of the Foundation, Serafina said, and an attorney. I am bound by law, by ethics, and by the code of conduct you insisted didn't apply to you. If I participate in what you're asking, I lose my license. I lose my freedom. I will not do that to protect your spending money. Morgana's hand slammed down on the folder. You think I won't find someone else? She hissed. There are 100 lawyers who would kill for your job. I'm sure there are, Serafina said. They can meet with you once I'm gone. But before that happens, I will be documenting this request and notifying the appropriate internal channels that I declined an unlawful instruction. Dorian's eyes snapped to her at that, alarm and something like hope mixing in the lines of his face. Morgana stepped around the desk, closing the distance until they were breath to breath. You ungrateful little clerk, she whispered. Do you have any idea what I can do to you? I can blacklist you from every board in this city. I can make sure your name is a cautionary tale. I can spin you as unstable, insubordinate, obsessed with control. People will believe me. They always do. I have the followers. I have the cameras. You have spreadsheets. Serafina didn't move. What I have, she said, is a complete archive of every time you misused Foundation resources, harassed staff, or flirted with breaching securities laws on camera. What I do not have is fear of losing access to your parties. Morgana stared at her like she was an unfamiliar insect. Then the fury ignited. Fine, she spat. You want to play righteous? Be righteous somewhere else. You're done here. She spun toward Dorian. I am terminating her, she declared. Effective immediately. Draft whatever you have to draft. But she is out. Today. Dorian's mouth opened. Closed. Morgana, we need to. Now, she screamed. She refused a direct order. That's insubordination. Fire her. Serafina watched him, the man whose silence had allowed 8 others to be erased. She saw the war on his face, the reflex to appease, the instinct to avoid open conflict, the dawning realization that this particular firing was not a tantrum he could later explain away. Mr. Crestfield, she said quietly, cutting through the chaos. Before you act, I need to state something on the record. Morgana whirled. You don't have a record. But Serafina was already speaking, voice level, eyes on Dorian. At approximately 10:23 a.m., she said, Mrs. Crestfield instructed me to prepare documentation for an undisclosed offshore transfer of funds that include donor-restricted Foundation assets. I declined, citing legal and ethical prohibitions. She is now attempting to terminate my employment for that refusal. Dorian swallowed, Adam's apple bobbing. Serafina, if you proceed with this termination, she continued, I will classify it as retaliatory and unlawful. Our contracts, board policies, and regulatory obligations require me to report what just occurred to the Audit Committee, Internal Counsel, and, if necessary, external authorities. Morgana's face flushed a dangerous crimson. Get out. Serafina turned to her almost kindly. I will, she said, after I send one email. Morgana lunged as if to snatch the phone from Serafina's hand, but Dorian stepped between them on instinct. His arm caught Morgana's wrist. The move startled them both. Enough, he said, and the word carried more weight than it had in years. Morgana jerked away, betrayal flaring in her eyes. You're taking her side? I'm taking the side that doesn't end with indictments, he said. For a heartbeat, the room held 3 different kinds of breathing. Morgana's ragged, Serafina's controlled, Dorian's somewhere in between. Serafina looked at him, giving him one last clear path. "You can suspend me if you feel you must," she said. "You can launch an investigation. You cannot, however, erase what was just requested, or that I refused." He closed his eyes just once. When he opened them again, something had shifted. "Serafina," he said, "go back to your office. File your internal report. Effective immediately. All discussions of asset transfers involving donor funds are frozen pending review." Morgana stared at him as if he'd grown another head. "You're choosing her over me?" she whispered. "I'm choosing the Foundation over prison," he said. The words seemed to rip something in her. "You think this place exists without me?" she screamed. "You think donors come for your spreadsheets? They come for me, my face, my name. You let this Ice Queen threaten me, threaten us, and you will regret it." Serafina didn't answer. She simply picked up the folder, closed it, and set it back on the desk. "Do not destroy these documents," she said. "They are now potential evidence." Morgana laughed, high and wild. "You're fired," she hissed. "I don't care what he says. You're finished." Serafina met her gaze, unblinking. "If that is your official position as of this moment," she said, "then please repeat it clearly for the record." Morgana opened her mouth. Fury-loaded Dorian got there first. "No," he said. "Morgana, you do not have authority to terminate executive staff unilaterally. Not anymore." The silence that followed felt like a cliff edge. Serafina inclined her head. The smallest acknowledgement of a battle deferred. Not one. She turned, opened the door, and walked out into the corridor, pulse steady to be by the time the elevator doors slid shut. Her report was already half-written in her mind. Date, time, participants, verbatim requests, her refusal, Morgana's retaliation. The summit of abuse had finally revealed what Serafina had been climbing toward all along. Not just a case for wrongful dismissal, but a blueprint for something far larger and far more dangerous than a wicked wife who liked firing assistants, an empire willing to flirt with crime to protect her whims, and a lawyer who had just calmly and irrevocably said no. They heard Morgana before they saw her. Her voice hit the corridor first, sharp and amplified by glass, tearing through the hush that usually wrapped the 40th floor in forced professionalism. Assistants froze at their desks. Someone's stapler slipped and clattered to the floor, loud as a gunshot in the sudden quiet. The office door to Dorian's suite stood half open, light spilling into the hallway like a stage that had been left lit after the show. "You think you can embarrass me and stay in this building?" Morgana's voice sliced out. "You think you can defy me and hide behind legal jargon?" Serafina walked toward the sound. Not faster, not slower. Her black suit absorbed the light, a deliberate contrast to Morgana's white blaze. As she reached the doorway, Dorian's assistant stood, lips parted, clearly about to whisper a warning. But the look on Serafina's face, calm, composed, inevitable, stopped the words. She stepped inside. Dorian's office felt smaller than usual, crowded not by people, but by emotion. Morgana was at the far side of the desk, hands planted on the polished surface, body pitched forward like she was trying to physically shove the world into submission. Dorian stood behind the desk, not in his chair, jacket buttoned too tightly, the navy fabric pulling across his shoulders as if it too wanted to escape. Papers lay scattered between them. Contracts, reports, a printed copy of Serafina's incident memo, now creased and crumpled at the corners. The moment Serafina entered, Morgana's head snapped around. "There she is," she said, words dripping triumph. "The traitor." Serafina closed the door gently behind her and moved to stand opposite them, forming the third point of a triangle. White suit, navy suit, black suit. The skyline framed them through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city oblivious to the fact that an empire was about to tilt on its axis. "You wanted to see me?" Serafina said. Morgana laughed, a high, overbright sound. "Oh, I wanted more than that," she said. I want everyone in this building to know what happens when someone forgets who owns this place. Dorian shifted, eyes flickering between the two women. Morgana, he began. Don't, she snapped, without looking at him. You had your chance upstairs. Now I'm handling this. She snatched up the wrinkled memo and waved it like a flag. Do you know what she did? Morgana demanded, glaring at Dorian's reflection in the glass instead of his face. She filed a report. On me. On her own employer. She used your precious systems to paint me like a criminal because I asked for help with my finances. Serafina didn't correct the word choice. Not yet. I exercised my duty as an officer of the Foundation, she said. You asked me to help you commit a crime. I declined and documented the request for internal review. That is exactly what my contract and the law require. Oh, listen to her, Morgana sneered. Duty, law, internal review. You think anyone outside your little compliance cult cares? You think the donors who follow my every post will side with you over me? She turned fully to Serafina now, eyes glittering. You humiliated me, she said. You made me look like I don't know what I'm doing. In my own building. You did that when you asked me to hide stolen money, Serafina replied. Voice even. Morgana's hand slammed down again. The pen holder jumped. I am done, she shouted. You are finished. Effective immediately. You are terminated for insubordination, disloyalty, and gross misconduct. You will clear your office today. Security will escort you off my property. You will never use our name on your resume again. The words rolled out like a sentence she had rehearsed. Something about firing this woman fed the same hunger that drove her to ring lights and anonymous hearts on a screen. Serafina let the declaration hang in the air for a heartbeat. Mr. Crestfield, she said calmly, do you concur with your wife's statement? Dorian flinched as if someone had thrown cold water on him. Serafina, he said, this is complicated. Not legally, she said. Either my employment is terminated or it is not. She has no authority to do this alone. You do. So I need to hear it from you. Morgana's eyes widened, then narrowed into slits. You don't get to put him on the stand, she snapped. This isn't a courtroom. No, Serafina said. But it is a record, and I am very careful with those. Dorian's gaze dropped to the papers on his desk. His own signature stared back at him from the bottom of the spousal NDA, the executive employment agreement, the governance policies that once had seemed like abstract shields and were now pointed like spears at his chest. You filed that report to the audit committee, he said quietly. Yes, Serafina replied, and to HR, and to outside counsel via secure channel. I could not risk internal suppression. If you fire me for refusing an illegal directive, that pattern will be clear. Morgana laughed again, but there was a crack in it now. Oh, she's good, she said. She's building her little martyr story already. Poor noble lawyer, destroyed by the wicked wife. Do you practice that in the mirror? She took a step closer, invading Serafina's space, trying to get a reaction. Tell me something, Morgana whispered. When you're sitting in some cheap office drafting contracts for small-time landlords, will it comfort you to know you were right? While I'm on a yacht, still rich, still followed, still. Serafina tilted her head slightly. Under investigation, she said. Yes, it will. The veins in Morgana's neck stood out. You think your report scares me? She screamed. I will flood the internet with my version before your precious committee even schedules a meeting. I'll say you tried to blackmail us, that you fabricated documents, that you were obsessed with Dorian. Dorian jerked at that. Morgana, he said sharply. She smiled viciously. Oh, don't act shocked, she said. You know how this works. People believe the story they want, not the one with the neat citations. And no one wants to believe I'm the villain when they love watching me. Serafina didn't blink. You can say whatever you want online, she said. You can trend for days. But the systems I filed into don't care about followers. They care about evidence, timelines, and statutory language. They care about the 8 wrongful dismissals before me. They care about the live stream where you teased an acquisition to a room full of potential traders. They care about the emails, the logs, the security footage, all of which I have already preserved. For a heartbeat, Morgana's fury faltered. Fear flickered through, quick and ugly. She masked it with louder anger. "You see," she said to Dorian, "this is exactly what I warned you about. You bring in sharks from the outside, and they start biting the hand that feeds them. She doesn't protect us. She hunts us." Serafina turned slightly, addressing Dorian fully now. "I protect the Foundation," she said. "That is what you hired me to do. You may not have intended for that protection to extend against your wife, but the documents do not recognize her as above the rules. That was your signature, not mine." The room felt like a fuse burning toward a single point. Serafina took a breath. "Steady? If you terminate me today," she continued, "it will activate Clause 12 of my contract. The board will receive an automatic notice that the executive director and general counsel was removed following a reported internal ethics conflict. The severance triggers alone will force an inquiry. If they connect that inquiry to the existing liability from 8 prior terminations and the NDA violations already logged, the narrative you are afraid of losing control over will no longer belong to either of you." Dorian's fingers tightened around the back of his chair. "How far does this go, Serafina?" he asked. "If I let her fire you, what do you do?" She didn't soften it. "I file externally," she said. "Regulators, oversight bodies, donors with fiduciary oversight, and I proceed with personal action for retaliatory dismissal, backed by every piece of documentation I have spent months quietly compiling. It will be public. It will be slow. It will be expensive." Morgana's hand flew toward her. A quick, ugly motion like she might actually slap her. Serafina didn't even flinch. She just looked at the hand. Dorian caught Morgana's wrist halfway, fingers closing hard. "Enough," he said again, louder this time. "You don't put your hands on my staff." "Your staff," she repeated, voice breaking. "Not your wife, not your partner. Your staff gets your protection now. You stopped asking for protection," he said quietly. "The day you decided fear was more useful." The words shocked even him. They hung between them, too honest to be taken back. Tears flashed in Morgana's eyes, but they burned away before they could fall. "You're choosing her?" she whispered. "I'm choosing the only version of this story that doesn't end with handcuffs," he said. The floor seemed to tilt. The city beyond the glass went a shade brighter. As if the clouds had shifted, Morgana looked between them. At Dorian's rigid posture, at Serafina's calm, at the pile of paper on the desk that suddenly felt heavier than all the jewelry she owned. "You will regret this," she said finally, voice low and deadly. "Both of you." She grabbed her bag, yanked the office door open, and stormed out into the corridor, heels striking the floor in furious, echoing beats. Heads turned, then ducked. The door slammed behind her, rattling the frames on the wall. The room exhaled. For a moment, neither of them spoke, then Dorian sank into his chair, the navy suit folding around him like a discarded costume. "Am I already too late?" he asked. Not looking up, Serafina watched him, weighing the question he was really asking. "For what?" she said. "To fix this," he replied. She thought of the logs, the screenshots, the frightened faces of staff who had learned to measure their worth in how little they irritated Morgana. The offshore folder still sitting in his penthouse office like a loaded gun. "You can't erase what's been done," she said. "But you can decide right now whether the next document we create is a cover-up or a confession." He looked up, meeting her eyes. "And if I choose confession, then this confrontation," Serafina said. becomes the moment the foundation stopped being her stage and started being your responsibility again. It becomes the first paragraph in the report that explains why Morgana Crestfield is no longer fit to sit on the board. The weight of that settled on him. He nodded, once, slowly. "Draft what needs to be drafted," he said. "For the board, for the auditors, for whatever comes next." Serafina inclined her head. "As you wish," she said. She turned to leave, hand on the door. "Serafina," he said. She paused. "For what it's worth," he said, voice rough. "When she brought you in here to humiliate you, I think she forgot who taught you to write the rules." Serafina let a small, almost invisible smile touch the corner of her mouth. "She reminded me," she said. "And now the rules are all we have." She stepped back into the corridor, where the staff pretended not to have ears, and walked toward her office in that same measured pace. White suit raging somewhere in the tower. Navy suit finally cracking. Black suit, steady as ever, carrying the confrontation not as a wound, but as a turning point. One more entry for the record that would decide who truly owned Crestfield when the shouting stopped. The boardroom wasn't designed for shouting. It was designed for signatures, for careful phrases, for the kind of power that preferred pen strokes to raised voices. Still, when Morgana stormed in ahead of Dorian, white suit blazing, the room felt like it might fracture. Directors shifted in their leather chairs. The audit chair straightened a stack of papers that didn't need straightening. At the far end of the table, Serafina stood waiting, a slim black folder in front of her, posture as calm as if this were just another quarterly review. Dorian took his seat at the head. Morgana remained standing, hands braced on the back of his chair like she owned not just the man, but the position. "Let's make this quick," she said. "We all know why we're here. Your star lawyer has been spreading little horror stories about me, and I'm here to shut them down." Serafina didn't look at her. She addressed the room. "Thank you all for coming on short notice," she said. "What you're about to see will make you uncomfortable. It should. My role is to protect the Foundation's legal and financial health. Today, that protection requires clarity." She opened the black folder, revealing a stack of bound pages with a simple title across the front. Liability Assessment, Executive Misconduct Impact. A restless murmur went around the table. Morgana scoffed. "Such dramatic titles," she said. "You missed your calling in marketing." Serafina slid the first document to the director seated nearest her. "Page 3, she said. "Summary table." Screens at each seat woke up as she mirrored the document to the digital display. Numbers appeared in clean columns. Dates, names, payouts. "Over the last 18 months, Serafina said, the Foundation has processed 8 high-level terminations associated with the role informally referred to as Morgana's assistant. The official reasons vary. Performance issues, cultural misalignment, restructuring. But when you strip away the language and look at the data, a pattern emerges." She tapped the screen. 8 terminations, all preceded by directives that required those employees to perform tasks outside their job description for the personal benefit of Mrs. Crestfield. All followed by internal complaints, either formal or informal, citing harassment, retaliation, or code of conduct violations. 7 were settled quietly. 1 is still pending. The audit chair adjusted his glasses, eyes narrowing. "And the total cost?" he asked. Serafina turned to the next slide. "Severance packages above contractual minimums, legal fees, reputation management, recruitment and onboarding for replacements. Conservative estimate, as of last week." On the screen, the number appeared in stark, unforgiving black. $4,200,000. The room seemed to inhale as Morgana laughed. Brittle. "Oh, please," she said. "You're really going to pretend those people were worth $4 million? They were forgettable, replaceable. You spend more than that on branding each year." Serafina didn't look away from the table. The law does not measure worth in affection, she said. It measures it in exposure. These figures represent what it has already cost us to keep those 8 departures from becoming public case studies in wrongful dismissal. Should any of them choose to breach their agreements, or should regulators decide to take an interest, that number becomes a floor, not a ceiling. One of the older directors cleared his throat. "Why are we hearing this now?" he asked. "Why was this not flagged sooner?" Serafina met his gaze without flinching. "It was flagged," she said, "in smaller memos, in risk notes attached to settlement approvals. Each time, the behavior was described as unlikely to recur. Did recur. So I consolidated the data into the report you see now." Morgana's fingers dug into the leather of Dorian's chair. "You make it sound like I personally wrote those checks," she said. "Everyone in this room approved them." "Yes," Serafina said, "which makes everyone in this room responsible for deciding whether that pattern continues." She turned another page. "The financial liability alone would merit attention. But there is an additional factor that elevates this from an internal HR issue to a potential regulatory event." Now she looked at Morgana directly. Mrs. Crestfield's use of private social media platforms. Morgana's jaw clenched. "I knew it," she said. "This is about a video, a harmless live. I was hyping our work. Free publicity." Serafina tapped her tablet. The screens flickered, then settled on a paused frame. Morgana in front of the Crestfield logo. Ring light glow softening every line of her face. Eyes bright with the hungry delight of being watched. "I obtained this from a saved device copy," Serafina said. "The original was deleted from the platform, but as we all know, deletion is rarely complete. What you're about to hear is approximately 18 seconds long." She pressed play. Morgana's own voice filled the room, slightly flattened by the speakers but unmistakable. "We may or may not be about to become the biggest private healthcare player on the Eastern Seaboard, but you didn't hear that from me." The clip ended. Silence settled, heavier than the words had sounded on their own. The PR director closed his eyes. One of the finance members swore under his breath. "That stream was private," Morgana said. "Invite only. Everyone there is a friend. Several of those friends have controlling interests in healthcare-related funds," Serafina said. "Some sit on boards of competitor institutions. One is currently under investigation for insider trading in another jurisdiction. When a person with your access and title makes a statement like that before a deal is public, it stops being gossip. It becomes potential evidence." She lifted a slim, separate document. "This is the spousal NDA," she said, "executed by both of you last year. Section 4, Clause B, prohibits Mrs. Crestfield from directly or indirectly sharing material, non-public information that could reasonably be expected to influence trading behavior or institutional negotiations. Violations trigger mandatory internal review, board notification, and grant the Foundation authority to seek indemnification." Her eyes shifted to Dorian. "You signed this," she said. "You asked me to strengthen it." "I did." Morgana turned on him. "And you let her use it against me?" "I asked her what it meant," he said quietly. "She's doing the job I hired her for." The chair of the governance committee spoke up, voice measured but strained. "Serafina," she said, "are you asserting that Mrs. Crestfield is in breach of this NDA?" "Yes," Serafina replied. The live stream, combined with her documented pattern of discussing internal strategies in semi-private digital spaces, constitutes a clear violation. I have compiled additional screenshots and logs, but this clip alone would be enough to open an inquiry. The legal director shifted in his seat. "And if an inquiry is opened? Best case," Serafina said. "We face fines, mandated reforms, and intense scrutiny of every major decision made in the last 18 months. Worst case, we invite a broader investigation into misuse of donor funds, retaliatory employment practices, and potential self-dealing." If that happens with our current documentation scattered and our leadership divided, we are not negotiating from strength. Morgana's laugh this time was thin, shaky. You're bluffing, she said. You won't blow up your own job, your bonus, your precious reputation. You need this place as much as we do. Serafina slid one more document onto the table. A single page, heavy paper, signed in 3 places. My contract, she said. You will see Clause 12 highlighted. If my employment is terminated following a reported ethical conflict, the board is automatically notified and certain materials are released into secure external hands. That process has already been initiated. I cannot stop it alone, even if I wanted to. Several heads snapped up. You already initiated it? The audit chair asked. Yes, Serafina said. The moment Mrs. Crestfield attempted to terminate me for refusing to execute an illegal transfer, I was obligated to. Today is not about whether that happened. It did. Today is about how this board and Mr. Crestfield choose to respond now that you cannot claim ignorance. All eyes turned to Dorian. For the first time, he looked not like a man trapped between 2 forces, but like one standing at the center of his own disaster. The navy suit seemed suddenly too formal, too polished for the naked emotion in his face. What are my options? He asked, and the question was not directed at Morgana. Serafina answered. Option 1, she said. You minimize. You frame this as a misunderstanding. You accept my resignation or terminate me. You attempt to keep the report buried, treat the settlements as the cost of doing business, and trust that no one with access to these facts decides to take them further. In that scenario, we roll the dice on regulators, leaks, and the patience of the people who have already been paid to stay quiet. Her gaze swept the room, letting that sink in. Option 2, she continued. You treat this as the corrective moment it can be. You acknowledge the pattern of misconduct. You initiate an independent audit. You temporarily remove Mrs. Crestfield from any formal or informal role in Foundation operations. You restructure oversight so that no spouse, including future ones, can wield unchecked power here. You cooperate fully with any external review, presenting these documents as evidence that you chose reform over concealment. Morgana stared at her, stunned. You think you can just erase me? She whispered. No, Serafina said. I think you've already written yourself into a corner. I am simply reading the lines aloud. She turned back to Dorian. This is your decision, she said. Save your wife's vanity or save your empire. The Foundation cannot survive both as they currently exist. The room felt like a held breath. Morgana leaned down, fingers biting into Dorian's shoulder. If you let her do this, she hissed, low but not low enough. I walk. I take everyone who matters with me. Donors, press, influence. You'll be left with spreadsheets and sob stories. Dorian looked at her hand on his shoulder, at the diamond flashing on her finger, at the nails that had drawn blood from so many reputations. Then he gently, deliberately, lifted her hand and set it aside. Morgana, he said, and his voice carried a steadiness it hadn't had in years. You already walked the moment you decided the rules didn't apply to you. She reared back as if struck. You ungrateful. Stop, he said, not loud. Final. He turned to the board. We built this foundation on the claim that we protect people, he said. Employees, beneficiaries, communities. Somewhere along the way, I let that promise become a slogan instead of a standard. That's on me, not on the staff you fired, not on the directors who trusted my judgment, and not on the woman who had the courage to put the truth in writing. His gaze found Serafina's. I choose option 2, he said. The words dropped like stones into still water. The governance chair spoke first. Then we will need to vote, she said, on the temporary removal of Mrs. Crestfield from all Foundation roles pending independent review. You can't, Morgana said, voice fraying. I'm not on your stupid payroll. I'm his wife. That status, Serafina said quietly, is governed by a different set of contracts, and by the same NDA you breached. One by one, the directors raised their hands. Some did it quickly, some slowly as if fighting gravity. None stayed down. The motion passed. Morgana stared at them, at the people she'd charmed, threatened, dazzled for years, and for the first time there was no immediate counterattack on her tongue. Shock had finally done what no assistant, no whisper, no nervous joke in the break room had ever managed. It silenced her. Security waited discreetly outside. Not for her yet. That would come later, through carefully worded letters and scheduled removals. For now, the only thing escorting her out was the realization that the room she had treated like her personal stage had turned on the stage lights and pointed them at the script instead of the star. Serafina gathered her papers, fingers steady. The $4.2 million liability report, the NDA clause printouts, the still frame of a woman glowing in ring light worship while hinting at secrets that were never hers to share. As she closed the folder, she felt Dorian's eyes on her again. "This won't be easy," he said quietly. "Nothing worth saving ever is," she replied. Outside, the city went on. Cars moved, people worked, screens lit up with 1,000 other scandals. But inside the Crestfield Tower, in that high-glass room, one empire had just chosen to stop being held together by fear and start being rebuilt on paper, proof, and the quiet, relentless work of a woman who had always understood that the sharpest weapon in the room was not the loudest voice, but the document no one could argue away. They took Morgana's name off the glass first. It didn't happen with a press release or a speech, just two maintenance workers on a gray Saturday morning, standing on scaffolding outside the tower as they peeled the elegant silver letters from the facade. Passers-by barely looked up. Inside the building, though, the absence rang louder than any announcement. On the 40th floor, the receptionist watched the live feed on her monitor. "It's really happening," she whispered, not to anyone in particular. Emails had gone out the night before, neutral phrases about governance realignment and temporary suspension of spousal access to operational areas. But seeing those letters gone made the change feel real. I in her office. Serafina read the final draft of the separation agreement one more time. Not her separation. There's Crestfield v. Crestfield. It didn't say that, of course. The document was full of softer words: marital dissolution, negotiated settlement, mutual non-disparagement. Buried inside was a number large enough to knock the breath out of most people. Tied to forfeited claims, waived board ambitions, strict conditions about future use of the foundation's name. Morgana would leave very rich, but not as rich as she'd imagined, and not with the leverage she'd once wielded. Serafina initialed the margin beside the key paragraph, then signed the last page as witness. The law had been clear, so had the evidence. In the end, it wasn't morality that forced the outcome. It was risk. Regulators, donors, auditors, every one of them would rather face a single scandal neatly contained than a decade of entanglements. The intercom on her desk clicked softly. "Ms. Ravenska," Dorian's assistant said, "he's ready for you, and congratulations." Serafina set down her pen. The boardroom where she'd presented the liability report felt different now. The tension had drained away, replaced by a quieter kind of alertness, like a body learning to stand without bracing against constant blows. Some directors had already stepped down, unwilling to face the scrutiny they'd signed on to. Their replacements came from audit firms, institutional partners, watchdog organizations, people who smiled less and read more footnotes. Dorian stood by the window when she entered, navy suit immaculate, but there was something less performative in the way he wore it now. He turned as the door closed. "It's done," he said. "She signed." Serafina nodded. She had expected as much. Morgana had always understood drama better than strategy. When faced with a choice between a controlled exit and a public dissection of her ring light kingdom, even she could do the math. Dorian gestured toward the table. Sit, he said. We have one more document to finalize. A slim folder waited at her place. Not black this time. Deep, controlled blue. She opened it. Amended executive contract, she read. Below the heading, her name in clean serif type. The first page set out the new title, Chief Operating Officer and General Counsel, Crestfield Foundation. Dual role. Full operational authority beneath the board. Direct reporting line that bypassed any spouse, current or future. You're sure about both? She asked. Honestly, he said. You've been doing both for months. This just stops pretending otherwise. She scanned the clauses. Enhanced protections. Clear whistleblower channels. Automatic board notification if any executive tried to interfere with compliance functions. A compensation package that acknowledged, in hard numbers, the value of saying no when everyone else said yes. There's also this, Dorian said. He slid another sheet toward her. A resolution already signed by the governance and audit chairs. It formalized a new internal doctrine. Operational independence from family influence. Any future partner of a Crestfield would sign a spousal NDA like Morgana's. Only this time, violations would trigger immediate loss of access, no discretionary wiggle room. You built the weapon, Dorian said. We're putting it in the bylaws. For the first time in a long while, something close to satisfaction warmed her chest. This will make you unpopular at home, she said. He gave a small, tired smile. Home is being redefined, he replied. I'd prefer to keep the place that bears my name standing. She reached the final page. Her own signature line waited, blank and patient. This is power, you know, he added quietly. Real power, not the kind that comes from a spotlight. The kind that decides where the money goes, who gets protected, what survives the next crisis. Power is just responsibility with better stationery, she said. Spoken like someone I trust with both, he answered. She signed. The pen moved steadily, black ink flowing across thick paper. It felt less like a victory lap and more like a confirmation of something that had already been true in practice. Still, there was a gravity to it. A line drawn between the woman who had walked into this building as the 9th expendable assistant and the one now authorized to rebuild its spine. As she dotted the final letter, the door opened, the governance chair stepped in. Apologies for interrupting, she said. I just wanted to see it happen. Dorian held up the sign page. Effective today, he announced, not as a performance, but as a record. Serafina Ravenska is appointed Chief Operating Officer and General Counsel of the Crestfield Foundation. The chair's smile was small, but genuine. About time, she said. Later, when word filtered through the building, the reactions were subdued but electric. No champagne, no speeches, just a series of emails adjusting org charts, title lines, reporting structures. Yet people looked up from their screens a little differently when Serafina passed. Not just because she'd survived Morgana, because she'd done it without screaming, without whisper campaigns, without trading ethics for proximity. I in the elevator down to the lobby. A junior program officer stepped in with her, clutching a folder to his chest. Congratulations, he said, eyes fixed on the panel. If we're allowed to say that. You are, she said. He hesitated. Is it actually going to change things? She thought of the $4.2 million in hush money, of late-night emails from staff terrified they'd be next, of the ring light, the live stream, the offshore folder, of the moment Morgana's voice finally cracked under the weight of a document she hadn't read before she signed. Yes, Serafina said, it's going to change things. In the weeks that followed, her calendar filled with less glamorous battles. Rewriting harassment procedures so no one had to choose between their job and telling the truth. Separating personal staff budgets from foundation operations so no emergency spa day could ever again be charged as community outreach. Establishing a digital policy that treated private platforms as extension of the office when confidential information was at stake. Some days were exhausting in a way the confrontation with Morgana had never been. There were no dramatic reveals, no gasps around a boardroom table. Just line edits, training sessions, corrected invoices. Quiet things. Necessary things. On a Friday evening, long after most of the floor had gone dark, Serafina stood alone in the boardroom. The city flickered outside, indifferent and endless. The Crestfield logo still gleamed on the far wall, but underneath it, newly installed, was a smaller plaque. In recognition of the staff and officers who uphold this foundation's duty when it is least convenient. She reached into her bag and drew out a single sheet of paper. Not a contract this time. A copy of the first log she'd ever kept here. Column A through H. Date, time, instruction, violation, cost, evidence. For a moment, she let herself remember how afraid she had been that day. Not of Morgana, of being ignored, of building a record no one would ever read. Now the logs lived in audit files, board packets, training materials. They had become precedent. Warning, shield, cold legal precision Morgana had once mocked, like it was a flaw. But in the end, it had outlasted her. Serafina folded the old sheet once, then again, and slipped it into the back of her new blue folder. Not as a trophy, as a reminder of where this all began. A woman in a black suit, sent to dig through someone else's trash, who decided instead to catalog the entire landfill. The elevator doors closed behind her with a soft hiss as she left the 40th floor. Somewhere across town, Morgana was no doubt rehearsing a new version of her story, one where she remained the wounded heroine. Let her talk. Screens would light up, comments would pour in, and the world would move on to its next spectacle. Here, though, the Foundation's future was no longer decided by who shouted the loudest. It rested in signatures, statutes, clauses, and the steady hand of a director who understood that the truest kind of power didn't need applause. It needed accuracy. It needed memory. It needed someone willing to write everything down and refuse, no matter who asked, to ever look away.